Hello, dear ladies and gentlemen, and everyone watching my channel, and of course, subscribers and guests. In this video, we'll figure out how to do registration with HTTP requests. And so many people were concerned about, I was worried about this thing, like registration with HTTP requests. In fact, there is nothing complicated here for each site. Naturally, the connection is specific. I will show a more or less simple version of the script. Yes. But to avoid digging around in the code for too long and so on. So all the requests are usually written by digging into the code, meaning you need to open it up. Now let's take a look at how this is done visually. We'll search for the page code, look for some tokens, and then start sending the request. It seems to me that we look at the requested headers, that is, the headers we need, and then we check the parameters being passed in the post request. So as a rule, any registration is some kind of post request. Alright, let's get to work. So, look, we have this wonderful site, GPG. It has a very simple, basically an old registration form. Well, for example, let's break it down, because there's nothing complicated here. But I want you to just understand the main principles, so this video doesn't take up too much time, with some modern examples. I'll take a more or less average example. Alright, look, here we have a simple registration form, meaning there are fields, full name, username, email address, then password, email, confirm password. And plus there's a checkbox for terms on, roughly speaking. Alright. So what are we doing? We need to click on this button, inspect element. But usually you can do all of this in Firefox. I'm just showing you how it's typically done in Yandex browser. Here, let's go to the network tab to start with. Here, let's enter some data here, any data. So basically what we need to do now is figure out what to do. First, we need to emulate this very registration request. When we do all of this, we will actually emulate the whole thing. We click on the button, yeah, and here, like this for example, you do it, right, yeah. And when we click on the button, we're emulating a request to the server, and we need to catch it here so that, to understand what he is sending to the server, do you understand? We click register, here, we catch this request. It will be hidden somewhere here, here it is, index 3 and register. Make sure to check that this was a post request. If it were something else, then you found the wrong thing. There can be a lot of things here, but you need to find a specific PHP file. Most likely it will be because PHP is processed on the server, right? Basically, it works with the server side. Alright. We found this request together, right? So you can also check its status here. So here you can look at the request with headers, what it is asking for. And here you can scroll all the way to the end and see if this request is there or not. As we can see, this is the very request, and it requires certain parameters to be passed. Here are the parameters that need to be passed in the post request. So we will be working with post requests in the database, which means the first parameter is the spirit, as you can see. Yes, yes. The summit is basically fixed, most likely a parameter. We will just pass it as a fixed value, so it is purely responsible for sending. Next, the token is a special token that is generated somewhere in our page code or somewhere on the server side. With the Russian Federation, the token is a special token that is generated somewhere in our page code or on the server side. Alright, so the server token, got it. Here, it is formed either during the page load or somewhere else in the code. But here, as you remember from the page flow, we will find it now. But is this correct? But if it's me, I mean, how is this done? I don't know for sure where it is generated. You just take and copy the name, either the service token or all of these little things. And then you search for them. During the page flow, I'll show you now. Alright, let's move on. The full name is filled in here as a parameter. Got it. Email 2 is for confirmation. Username, password 2 is for confirmation. In terms, it is also passed to indicate that the checkbox is active. That's it. It's not complicated, basically. It's a post request form. Regarding the headers, we'll figure this out. Again, so all these headers can also be passed here. Basically, well, except for cookies, cookies are not needed. That's it, yes, basically everything is simple here. So the only thing that needs to be removed from the page before making a request to the database, we need to find the CRF token. Yes, all the other data too. This can be generated automatically using the database with random values. The data is a random string. I'm using some digits here, and that's it. You need to go to the exact server that's there. Okay? So let's find where it's already stored. Let's go into the element. And here, press Control-F. I'm inserting the Tokyo server. You see, it's a hidden field, and it's concealed. So we just need to access this field through the API and extract its value into the variable, then substitute it into the request. That's it. All the other values, basically we have everything here. It's all pretty simple here. Now, so we're going, which means we're going and we're going, which means we're going back to the network, and now we're going to create our request. To start, what do we need to do? We need to copy the URL from here, our hit. So, in order to access the page via a GET request, what do we need to do first? First, we need to make a GET request to this page to extract it from their CRF token, so that you understand, yes, why this is being done. So what are we doing? We're going into HTTP client. We click on the HTTP client GET request, and here in the URL we just specify this value. For now, without headers, let's see if it displays without headers. Let's take a look. We click OK. Let's check the traffic analyzer. Yes. Let's take another look. So we're looking good. Everything is displayed well, even without any headers. So, what do we do next? Next, we go back to the base. And now, this request has already been formed. The page code, yes. Now we also need to do this using the HTTP client. Now, let's extract the token from there. And it's done very simply. We're taking XPath to get the XML. Yes. And here we need to specify the XPath request. So we don't need to insert any page code here. The page code is already there by default. It's built into your step client. Yes. So we just need to write the XPath request. And how do we write it? We're going back to the page again. So here, yes, we look for this XRF token and we write XPath directly on it. So we need to refer to a certain one, to a certain impulse. To start, we write just a bit of a larger small training on XPath additionally, and then we will write it down. But basically, you can copy it to I am Tokyo. We describe it, we set it. So we get the dog further, name, style, dog, it's learning the attribute, yes, roughly speaking, and this is an attribute type, supposedly. Then the server token and I put this little thing. That's it, we addressed a specific field on the page, but we need to extract something from it. Value. So we need to refer back to the internal attribute of that very element, put the dog again, and write value, so we can extract the value from it. That's it, we've created the XPath request. Now we copy it from here and go to our database. Here we insert this request. Here we will specify that this is a variable. We'll save that this is SI. Token. Okay, but here in principle it terminates the work with an error. No need to check the box in principle, okay? Let's see what we have with the SIRF token recorded. As you can see, it requested our SIRF token from this page. Now after this request, and as soon as we extracted this token, we can already form the request. Actually, alright, now before the final request, what we need to do is we need to form. So all the parameters that we need in this case are the user ones, but full name, email, user, name, password, but full name, email, username, password, that's it. It's actually very simple to do. Let's start with the full name. The full MMR is formed with the help of the template actions unlike others, but this is more or less rational. So, if you need it to match specifically, not just some random nonsense filled in, but a specific first name and last name, then I recommend using a template. Ideal in the tools section, template. So why a template? Because in the template you can create, if we click here, you can immediately generate ready-made solutions. That is English male names, last names, and so on. All of this can be generated. Let's take one of the templates. What do we need? Well, let's take English male names such as those that start with a capital letter. English male names, and we can put it after a space. An English male last name, roughly speaking English last names. We've substituted it, that's it. We assign this variable calling it full name so we don't get confused in our code. We click OK and see how our full name has transformed into Edward Martin. Everything looks great, our field is filled in, and now what's left is to set the email, username, and password to form a... It's pretty simple, really. Let's start with the username. Let the username be a random value, there's no need to overthink it. Here, specifically, let's use a random string for banana, without any tools. So, well, actually, it can be without numbers, it can be with numbers, basically. There are some values, and basically 10 strings should be enough. We assign this value to the username. We click OK. Let's see what we've generated for the username. Here's the value. Basically, it is suitable to make a request. Alright, good. Next, we do the same. We copy from here and paste it here. This will be our passport because the passport also consists of these letters. We can add some additional uppercase letters here, that is, some that don't repeat. Let's click generate password one more time. And as you can see, we've added some uppercase letters here. Well, it's better not to add big numbers there in the login, yes, after all. Well, in the passport, it doesn't really matter. That's it. We've generated the username and password. Now we just need to create an email for auto-registration. The email is formed in two ways. First, you can set certain parameters. It consists of two parts. Yes, so the first part is of this type, like a username. Yes, there's something before the O symbol, and after it we have some constant, like a round one. So it could be mail.ru, Yandex.ru. There's fatmail, aru, gmail.com, or domain mail linked to a specific site. Here we can do the same thing. We can write it for Belberdu as well. So basically for this site, it doesn't matter. For some sites where it is important, it's best to create something array. What we do is we click to run the code. And we create some array to later combine. And two parts. The first part is generated as a random string, and the second part will be taken from the array and put together. Some kind of random So we take and create a variable, let's call it. Let's say, this will be DMALs. Dmails. So the second part of the emails, dmails, yes. The array is declared using like these square brackets, and in these square brackets we define all the elements of our array. In this, I suggest using the elements of the array like mail.ru, for example. We put the clogged one further, Yandex.ru, for example. Next, for example, we put the codemail.com, let's say, there, for example, yahoo.com, which are more or less adequate emails to avoid raising suspicions from other servers. In case you're registering on a more advanced form, especially that's good. So mail.ru and Yandex.ru. The code emails yahoo.com, gmail.com. There, yes. Well, all the ones that come to mind you can just type in right away, but basically that's enough. So you can expand this list with your own, whatever you want, basically it doesn't matter. Alright, we click OK. Let's see, we have formed a list of DMLs. Now we need to combine it with the generated username. So it turns out, and it will make a complete email. So what do we do for this? We need to start by randomly selecting one of these components from our list, right? This is done as follows. Since this is a list, we go to the list module. And here we declare a random element. Here's the variable containing the list, which will be exactly the array we created, that's DM. We go in and find DMC, and in the variable we save the random value. We're creating a random DML so it doesn't get in the way. So we click OK. And now let's see what we have in random DML. We have, I'm lying there as an artist. Everything is great. Now it's necessary. This random value, we need to combine our tail with the username through the @ sign, and it's really simple to do. We're going to the blog together. Let's go install the script. And here we will call the variable randomly, well, here, or let's just ML. Let's just name it so we don't get confused. All right. Now here we need to combine two parts. We take the first part, this is our username. So we put the symbol and add the tail random ML. All this is very simple. We press the flower. Let's see that we have email. Now email, then we have this part. A dog was added. As your username I want. That's all we have formed. Now this part will also be dynamic, and this part will also change constantly. But in our case, that is, if we constantly register on this site, in fact there is protection. That is, you cannot register more than once with 1 and food K. Therefore, if you want a resume on this site, then you need to, but on most sites. I cross the same protection is worth it, you need to have some kind of proxy constantly new. Yes, that is, there is a mobile best way. Yes, the most. We set up the mobile proxy here, uploaded it into your client, and use it for registration. That's it, basically. We've formed all the necessary parameters together, right? Let's check. Do we have everything? Passport check, username check, email check, full name check, CRF token check. All the other parameters are fixed, and we'll pass them in the same way. All right, great. Now, So, we're forming the request 3. The very last thing we need is for the request. All right. So next what we do is we go to the client, and we click on the request. And we will immediately need a request data constructor to form the array of data that we will be sending. Well, it's just easier here. Why is that? So we're going to set the parameter right away. Yeah, we're going to take it from here. So I'll be copying and pasting the values right here. Just put them in here like this. You would understand that it's actually the easiest to do it this way. So we pass it through JSON and so on. So what are we doing together? We're doing it. We need to set up Eura where we're going to do it. We're going to make a request like this, since we've figured out that the request goes to this URL. Yeah, because here the post is signed. We copy it from here. We copy it from here. And we paste it, but we'll remove what we insert here in Eura, all the headers for now. I don't know what we need. If it's not needed, then we'll find out about it. As soon as we make the request, we'll check the page content after the request and determine if something went wrong or not. Or if everything is fine, then the headers aren't needed, right? Well, on most modern websites, headers are needed, and there are all sorts of other important parameters that are passed. Usually... Okay, so the first parameter needs to be passed. Now we build a structure, our request, yes, that is we pass to this URL, and we need to pass a parameter. As I already said, all these parameters are shoved in. Here we have a little bit lower at the very end of the date forms, remember before the date forms? Here we have the parameters, and all of these parameters, yes, they are highlighted in bold. All of these parameters. In the video, we're following step by step and copying, so we copy the first parameter, du. We paste it here. Next, we have the value for the du parameter. We have a summit. It's fixed. It doesn't change. So just based on the name, it's kind of static, you know? We click on add. So, well, as I mentioned, it's static. I mean, it looks static, but I'm not sure, you know, roughly speaking. But after we test the request, we can understand what the problem is because it will already be clear what the issue is. Well, there's a red sign there. It will all be there. You'll see it now, but if there's a problem, of course, that's good. Until the summit. 1, the token service is a mandatory parameter from the West. We click here. We've already extracted the value of the CRF token earlier. Here we have the method xpass. So the CRF token, here, we saved it earlier in a variable, so that's the CRF token. We select it, and we have the CRF token in our variables. We click on add. The next parameter we have is the full name. We copy from here. Similarly, we paste it right here. And here we previously regenerated the full name template. I'll tell you. We select the parameters and choose full name, then click add. I did the same thing with email AM. And with the email AM2, that is the email. Got it. Yes, this is our variable value for the email that we formed earlier. We click add and the same value with 0.2 up to 2. We copy and paste exactly the email. Now we have left that we have the user. Next we copy the parameter. We insert it here. And here we specify the username that we created in the random string username. We click here. And the last one, and the two parameters before the last one are the passport. It's clear that this is the password that we also created, and it's randomly generated right here. Passport none, password 2 as password confirmation. Password done. That's it. And now the last parameter that needs to be sent. This is our terms elephant. So we click on terms and send it here. We click everything. Okay. And now basically everything is ready. Now we need to send the request to the server. So let's see whether we registered or not. We click OK. We are forming a request, and in the end we will get some value. Let's check the view. As you can see, your account is now registered. So everything worked perfectly for us. So we completed the registration via the HTTP request. No errors occurred during this. So if any errors occur, they might be related to the IP address, and you can handle all of them. It turns out that how it is necessary to find actually the selector of this error via XPath, check for existence, let's say via XPath error, and based on this error, take some actions inside your script. But the goal of this video was to briefly show you how registration is done on HTTP requests, that is, without browser emulation at all, and without using your computer's resources at all. That is, this is how you can form requests and, in fact, register on any sites. So on each site, of course, the situation is unique. Programmers might complicate things, and actually, it turns out they use various encryption mechanisms for different tokens, but nevertheless, here it is. Here's the simplest option. You can register here. That's it. If this video was helpful for you, give it a thumbs up, leave comments, subscribe.